After the young general of the Xiao family fled our wedding, the Xiao family came to apologize and offered two solutions. The first was to call off the engagement for now, and once they found him, choose another auspicious day to marry. The second was to proceed with the wedding as planned, with his elder brother taking his place to marry me. I felt humiliated, and I was also afraid that if I kept waiting, I would end up an old maid. So, I wiped away my tears and hurriedly got married. 3 months later, I set off for Jiangnan to visit my maternal grandparents. On the way, our boat was attacked by bandits, but luckily, a young gentleman saved me. He was young and handsome, with a hint of pride in his eyes. His ears flushed red, and he dared not look at me.
I am Xiao Bei. May I know how I should address you, miss?
My face also grew hot, and my eyes darted away. But it was not out of shyness, it was out of fear. This person, how could this person have the exact same name as my former fiancé who fled our wedding? Perhaps because I remained silent for so long. Xiao Bei, with his ears still red, spoke once more.
Please do not be afraid, miss. My name is Xiao Bei. I come from the capital and have practiced martial arts since childhood. Those bandits who boarded the boat have been driven away by me. They won't hurt you again.
The capital, Xiao Bei, superb martial arts skills. Every single detail matched perfectly. His identity was practically staring me in the face. My palms began to sweat, and panic surged in my heart. Seeing my dodging gaze, Xiao Bei assumed I just hadn't recovered from the shock yet, so he softened his voice.
Are you heading to Jiangnan, miss? As it happens, I am going there as well. The river has been treacherous lately. If you do not mind, we could travel together. That way, we can look out for one another.
It was obvious that he rarely spoke to anyone this way. He had a tall, imposing build and a face marked by pride. Even though he was trying to soften his tone, it still came across as somewhat awkward and forced. Most of my accompanying guards, in their efforts to protect me, had been injured. Some could barely stand. Xiao Bei, on the other hand, possessed exceptional martial skills, and the servants traveling with him were all strong and robust. It would take another 5 or 6 days to reach our destination, and there was no telling if those river pirates would return. Faced with the matter of survival, past entanglements and awkwardness amounted to nothing. Left with no other choice, I could only lower my head and reply in a soft voice. Thank you for your protection, young master. The history between Xiao Bei and me was a complete mess to begin with. I had been raised in my maternal grandparents' home since childhood. For as long as I could remember, I had always known that I was bound by this arranged childhood betrothal. My grandparents' home was in Jiangnan, which was a vast distance from the capital. Even though I had never laid eyes on this fiancé of mine, I still held certain expectations of him. The second young master of the Xiao family had followed his father to the frontier at the age of 15 to defend against invading neighboring states. At 18, leading 3,000 cavalry, he raided the enemy camp by night and captured the enemy commander, a young hero with many achievements and full of righteousness. I once sent him Jiangnan pastries and sachets. He also had someone bring to me hairpins and poetry collections from the capital. So, after hearing that he ran away from the wedding, I thought about it all night, but still couldn't understand why. Clearly, in his letters, he treated me with warmth and courtesy. Why did he refuse to marry me? After having dinner, I walked toward the tall young man, standing at the bow of the boat. He was very surprised to see me, and a flash of joy appeared in his eyes. This was actually our first time introducing ourselves properly. I lied and said I was the 4th young lady of my maternal family, and that I was on my way back home. Xiao Bei's voice tensed slightly.
I am the 2nd young master of the Changping Marquis household, Xiao Bei. I am 21 this year. My family is in the capital, and I am not yet married.
My suspicion was finally confirmed, and the heavy burden in my heart was lifted. He was indeed the fiancé who fled the wedding 3 months ago. I couldn't help but ask him. I heard you were once betrothed to my second sister, Lin Zhao-zhao. Why do you say you are not yet married? In my maternal family, I am the 2nd child, so back at my grandmother's house, everyone calls me the 3rd miss.
No. That marriage was off a long time ago.
Xiao Bei replied almost instantly. Why was it off? This time, he remained silent for a long while, before finally speaking in a flat tone.
It is just old history. It was nothing more than an arrangement made by our elders when we were children.
It was not of my own free will. A few short words, summarized and dismissed all the years of my youth, during which I had spent every day looking forward to marrying him. No wonder he could leave so resolutely, just 3 days before our wedding, leaving me in utter embarrassment, and making me the laughingstock of all the noble ladies in the capital. Xiao Bei looked up at me, his cold expression softening once again. He hesitated to speak, as if testing the waters.
I wonder where your husband is, my lady. How could he feel safe letting you travel so far alone? He is far too negligent.
It is only traveling alone. How could that possibly compare to being abandoned on the eve of one's wedding? I swallowed the lump in my throat, choked with bitterness and grievance, and lowered my head to avoid Xiao Bei's gaze. I am not yet married, Xiao Bei's eyes instantly lit up back when Xiao Bei ran away. Afterward, the Xiao family brought generous gifts to our house to apologize. They proposed 2 solutions. First, delay the wedding, and the Xiao family would use all their resources to look for Xiao Bei. Once they found him, we would get married. Second, the wedding would proceed as scheduled, but the betrothal between the Lin and Xiao families would transfer to Xiao Bei's older brother, Xiao Nan, making me marry him instead. The news of Xiao Bei fleeing the wedding had already begun to spread. The noble ladies of the capital were all waiting to mock me. I felt humiliated, and I also felt that waiting for the Xiao family to find him would take who knew how long. So, I chose the second option and hastily married. Now, seeing Xiao Bei again, after 3 months, I had become his brother's wife. No matter what, it was bound to be awkward, so I lied to hide my identity, planning to part ways once we reached Jiangnan and never meet again. After all, I did resent him in my heart. Just before arriving at our destination, on the very last day, we encountered river bandits again. This time, there were many of them. No matter how skilled Xiao Bei was, he inevitably got injured. By the time the bandits were driven off, there were already many wounded. My maid and I couldn't care about propriety and personally helped the wounded with bandages and medicine. Xiao Bei's arm had been slashed by a bandit, leaving a deep wound. He could have easily avoided it, but at that moment, I was standing right behind him. It was also my first time seeing such a terrifying wound. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I bandaged him. Xiao Bei spoke softly to comfort me, guiding me step by step on how to treat the injury. Once I finally tied the bandage in place, I let out a long sigh of relief. Thank you, young master. Just now, if you hadn't shielded me, I would have been the one injured. I waited for a long moment, but heard no reply. Confused, I looked up, only to find Xiao Bei staring at me blankly. His gaze was fixed on my face. Only then did I realize that when the bandit swung his blade earlier, some of Xiao Bei's blood had splattered onto my cheek. I quickly wiped it away with the back of my hand. The handkerchief Xiao Bei was offering froze in midair, and he silently pulled it back.
No need for thanks. I told you, I will protect you. Do not be afraid. Even at the very last moment, I will still stand in front of you.
These words were far too intimate and completely inappropriate. Between the two of us, Xiao Bei's gaze drifted, moving from his bandaged wound back to the space between my brows. Under the blue sky and green water, the way he looked at me seemed a bit dazed.
Miss, since you are not yet betrothed, then
Miss.
Xiao Bei's somewhat muffled words were cut off by my maid's voice. She rushed over to me, still catching her breath. She glanced at Xiao Bei, lowered her voice, and leaned close to my ear.
Miss, that gentleman sent a message via carrier pigeon.
I had already instructed her not to reveal our identities, so when she said, "that gentleman," I immediately understood it was Xiao Nan, my upright and solemn husband, who was also Xiao Bei's elder brother.
The gentleman said he is almost at Jiangnan and will be at the dock to pick you up, miss.
This husband of mine had exemplary character, was exceptionally intelligent, and acted with meticulous care. At a young age, he had already joined the Grand Secretariat. Only, he was a bit too clingy. The emperor had sent him out on official business, so he could not accompany me to my maternal grandfather's home. As a result, he sent letters via carrier pigeon almost every single day. There weren't many words in the letters, only writing about how many days were left before his arrival, and how many more days until we could meet again. At the end of the letters, he would always repeatedly write 4 words. "Is my wife well?" Not wanting him to worry, I replied, "All is well." Then, I released the messenger pigeon once more. As I turned around, I locked eyes with Xiao Bei's dark gaze. With this interruption, what we had been discussing earlier was left unfinished. Xiao Bei looked somewhat disappointed, but he still forced himself to brighten up and smiled at me.
The boat will dock tomorrow. You had a fright today, my lady. Go and rest first.
But rest was impossible. As soon as I closed my eyes, I saw the ferocious faces of the pirates and the wound on Xiao Bei's arm. After hesitating for a long time, in the end, I went to ask Xiao Bei, "Why were you unwilling to marry my second older sister? I saw the letters she exchanged with you, and I also saw the gifts you sent. Why did it later?" Just stop. This was a thorn lodged deep in my heart. It was hard for me to forget those beautiful days of the past. Whenever I thought of them, they were hard to let go.
No, those things were sent by the household on their own initiative. They were not from me.
Xiao Bei still answered very quickly, as if he was afraid I might misunderstand. He carefully retrieved a jade bracelet from his robe.
Our Xiao family ancestors had a rule. When a man of the Xiao family reaches the age of 20, he must personally carve a jade bracelet. It is only to be given to the one he loves.
Xiao Bei's eyes flickered and fell upon me before darting away immediately.
Although I have a betrothal from childhood with her, I have never thought of giving this to her.
The jade bracelet in my sleeve pressed hard against my wrist, causing a sharp pain. I covered it up and hid my hand behind my back. His older brother, Xiao Nan, on our wedding night, approached me. I was dazed and lightheaded. By the time I woke up, utterly exhausted, on my wrist, this very jade bracelet had appeared. So that was what he meant after all. Xiao Bei, seemingly afraid I might overthink things, he then continued to explain.
Actually, I don't like her at all. I heard she has been weak since childhood, always sickly. I have spent years fighting at the border, and I dislike such delicate women the most.
As the wind blew, I couldn't help but cough. Xiao Bei immediately stepped in front of me to block the wind, his brow furrowing.
You should have put on more clothes. Don't worry, even if I must search everywhere for famous doctors, no matter how many fine medicines are needed, I will also nurse you back to health.
He looked at my pale lips, and in his eyes, a hint of pity naturally arose.
This wind is terrible, and so is this water. They startled you. How truly detestable.
The maid brought over a cloak and draped it over me. Once I recovered my composure, I continued to ask. My older sister is a reasonable person. If you were unwilling, you could have just called off the marriage. She wouldn't have clung to you and refused to let go. Why did you have to run away right before the wedding? The second half of the question, I ultimately did not say aloud. Why run away from the marriage? Why did you have to humiliate me like this?
I originally thought I could just settle, that marrying anyone would be the same. But when it came down to the days right before the wedding, I still couldn't accept it. I want to marry someone I love and spend my life with her rather than just marrying some random person only for us to detest each other. Besides, I fought on the battlefield to win my achievements and title. Yet that second miss of the Lin family is a sickly weakling. I heard she only knows how to play the zither and write poetry. I'm afraid that in her entire life, she has never even been on a horse's back.
My tone grew calm. So, do you feel that she is not good enough for you? Xiao Bei, as if only just remembering that this woman he looked down upon was my sister. He froze instantly. His entire being seemed somewhat at a loss.
It is not that. I just felt she was too rigid. If I were with her, we would have nothing to say to each other.
Xiao Bei looked at me cautiously.
I'm sorry. I should have discussed it with her properly, instead of leaving so suddenly, right before the wedding, leaving your sister to be ridiculed by others.
So, he did know that the person left behind back then would suffer embarrassment. I gently closed my eyes. The answer that had been weighing on my heart was suddenly revealed just like that. So, he had initially thought about settling, but in the end, he realized he couldn't settle after all. So, it was simply that he looked down on me, feeling that I was not good enough for him. Those few words of his, spoken so casually, had left me in the capital to be gossiped about and ridiculed by others. They had left me at night, tossing and turning, doubting myself over and over again, wondering if I was so utterly disagreeable, crying until my tears ran dry. So you have always thought this way. Panic flashed in Xiao Bei's eyes, and he whispered once more.
I'm sorry.
My voice grew completely cold. What a pity. The person you should apologize to is not me, but my sister. After that conversation, I completely lost any desire to speak to Xiao Bei again, unless it was absolutely necessary. I barely left my room. Xiao Bei also noticed my aloofness. Several times, when I looked out through the window, I saw him on the deck, pacing back and forth. His gaze was fixed in this direction, looking as if he wanted to approach, but did not dare to take a step. This awkward atmosphere persisted until a team of guards arrived. There were about a dozen of them, approaching in small boats. I recognized them. The one leading them was Xiao Nan's personal guard, named Xiang Da. A trace of doubt flashed in my eyes. Xiang Da came forward, clasped his hands, and bowed.
Madam, there has been a change of plans. His lordship is tied down by official duties and cannot get away for now. He specifically ordered me to bring men and fetch you first.
Xiang Da and Xiang A were the two most capable men under Xiao Nan. Xiao Nan had already sent Xiang Heir to protect me. Now, even Xiang Da had been sent over. Perhaps sensing my anxiety, Xiang Da explained further.
You need not worry, madam. My lord is dealing with the rebels, and it is almost wrapped up. There won't be any more danger.
Although he said so, I still couldn't ease my mind. Just as I was about to ask for more details, a sudden force came from behind, grabbing my arm and pulling me behind him. Xiao Bei stood in front of me, staring at Xiang Da with a guarded look.
How did you know I was here? Did my brother send you to take me back?
Both Xiang Da and I were stunned. Xiang Da quickly recovered his senses, bowing in greeting.
Second young master?
He hesitated to speak, clearly not expecting to run into the second young master of the Xiao family here. Nor could he figure out the current situation. Xiao Bei blocked Xiang Da's gaze and turned back to comfort me.
Don't be afraid, miss. These people are here for me. It has nothing to do with you. I won't let them hurt you.
He seemed to find it hard to speak, hesitating for a long time before saying.
To tell you the truth, miss, actually, I ran away from home for the past few months. My family has been sending people to look for me everywhere. I didn't expect to run into them here.
He was embarrassed and cautious around me, but when he turned to look at Xiongda, he became guarded and cold.
I can go back with you, but only after I finish my business in Jiangnan. And another thing, you can take me away, but you must not trouble this lady. She and I only met by chance on this journey. She knows absolutely nothing about my running away from home.
Xiongda stood there stiffly, unable to process this for a long moment. He looked at Xiao Bei and then at me, while no one was paying attention. From my corner, I gently shook my head at him. I wasn't sure if Xiongda understood what I meant. He scratched his head and hesitated for a long while. Finally, he bowed to Xiao Bei again.
Understood, sir. We shall do as you command, second young master.
After Xiongda led the guards to step back, Xiao Bei continued to explain to me.
He is my older brother's personal guard. Since he is here, my brother is likely here as well. By now, he might already be guarding the Jiangnan docks. There will be many people from the local government on the shore then. Don't be afraid.
I shook my head gently. I'm not afraid. Xiao Bei's voice softened even more.
He came this time for me. He is determined to take me back home. It has nothing to do with you. I will explain things to my brother, and I will see you safely on your way. I promise to protect you and see you home.
Heis. I sighed silently to myself. How could Xiao Bei possibly know that his brother did not come for him at all? The carrier pigeon's letter. The guards who arrived first to keep watch over the dock. His older brother, having been separated from me for several days, must have rushed here immediately after finishing his official duties. At this moment, he was probably so eager to see me that he could hardly sit still, with Xiongda and his men escorting us. The rest of the journey was much smoother. It was now less than an hour before the ship would dock. Thinking of my maternal grandfather's family, I could not help but stand at the bow, gazing at the distant shore. Xiao Bei finally found an opportunity to speak to me.
Miss Lin, once the ship docks, we will have to part ways.
He seemed to have hesitated for a long time, with a thin layer of sweat on his brow from the sun.
I still have something I want to give to you personally.
I turned around and looked at him quietly. Xiao Bei pulled out an object from his robe. It was smooth and warm to the touch, of the finest quality. It was indeed that jade bracelet.
This is something I polished with my own hands. Families of our social standing have always valued alliances over feelings. I originally thought I would never have the chance to give this away in my lifetime.
His face flushed red. His eyes were cautious, yet filled with anticipation.
But now, in my heart, I have chosen someone. It is my own choice, not someone forced upon me by others.
I was the person he was betrothed to, the affection he looked down upon, and the arranged marriage forced upon him by his elders that he wanted no part of. I slowly closed my eyes. The young man's tone was sincere, and his feelings were genuine, but every single word felt like a weight pressing on my chest, suffocating me. My sleeve, the hard touch against my wrist, brought my thoughts back. That was the jade bracelet Xiao Nan had personally put on me on our wedding night. Please take it back. I cannot accept this. I spoke to refuse him. The jade bracelet is too heavy and too fragile. My wrists can only bear one. Xiao Bei suddenly looked up, the blush on his face not yet faded.
Is it because of your sister?
Thinking I cared about his past betrothal, Xiao Bei hastily explained.
Believe me, I don't like your sister at all. That was just an arranged marriage from childhood. I hated being controlled, so I ran away from the wedding and left home for months. I have never regretted it.
Indeed, of course he didn't regret it. To him, fleeing his wedding was nothing more than a subject of gossip, teased as a young man's rebellious phase. But for me, as a woman, the rumors and pressure I had to bear are naturally things he could never truly understand. My expression grew colder and colder from beginning to end. I didn't even look at the jade bracelet once. After a long pause, Xiao Bei withdrew his stiffened arm.
That is true. Indeed. We have no formal status yet, so doing this is indeed somewhat improper.
Xiao Bei's tone was dry, as he tried his best to hide the disappointment in his eyes.
I was too impatient, and have offended you, miss. It so happens my elder brother is also here. I will go and beg him. He is my eldest brother, and holds an official post, so he can represent the elders of the Xiao family.
Xiao Bei's eyes lit up again, his tone becoming exceptionally solemn.
Rest assured, miss, I will surely beg my brother to propose marriage formally. All the etiquette and gifts will be of the highest standard. I will absolutely not let you suffer the slightest grievance.
Just a moment ago, he was only gifting a jade bracelet, yet in the blink of an eye, it had turned into a marriage proposal. My heart missed a beat, and for a moment I didn't know how to respond. Forget it. Once he actually asks Xiao Nan, he will understand on his own. Indeed, I did not know how to face him. Within him, there still remain grievances from the past. Let the two brothers clear it up between themselves. After docking, there were indeed many government soldiers on the shore, with eyes full of reluctance. Xiao Bei turned back to look at me several times before he was finally taken to the government office by the guards. I stood on my tiptoes and looked around, but I didn't see Xiao Nan. The officer leading the group stepped forward to explain.
There is an urgent military matter, and the Lord is currently occupied at the government government office, unable to get away. He specifically ordered us to escort you, madam. Once he has handled the matter, he will come to see you.
I gave an understanding nod and went first to my maternal grandparents' house to pay my respects. The joy and intimacy of reuniting with family naturally goes without saying. But after waiting at my grandparents' house for 4 hours, I was the one who couldn't sit still anymore. Having been separated from Xiao Nan for several days and being newlyweds, I naturally, I missed him too. So I prepared some pastries and tea, and with Shangda and Shang-Yi guarding me, I took the initiative to go to the government office. When bypassing the main entrance, I was walking in a hurry, while the Xiong brothers, who were still settling the carriage, fell a few steps behind. As I walked through the dense shadows of the trees, I suddenly heard a low, muffled sound nearby. Someone had taken a heavy blow. Startled, I instinctively hid behind a tree and looked over. A raspy male voice drifted over.
Does that blow from you? Brother, vent your anger. If it is still not enough, please go ahead and strike again. You can punish me however you like. I definitely won't dodge.
That was Xiao Bei's voice, after a brief silence over there, immediately followed by my husband, Xiao Nan's voice.
You have always had a stubborn temper and never deferred to anyone. This time, you are actually willing to stand here and take your punishment.
Xiao Nan's tone was extremely cold.
Tell me, what are you planning this time?
That blow must have been quite heavy. Xiao Bei coughed quietly a few times before speaking.
What could I be planning? I only heard that brother married that arranged child bride in my stead. As your younger brother, I am deeply grateful in my heart.
I peeked quietly from behind the tree, and sure enough, I saw Xiao Bei clutching the side of his shoulder.
I know brother was preserving the family's honor by marrying someone you do not love. When we return from Jiangnan this time, I am willing to give that Fergana horse to brother. If you are still angry, you can continue to punish me. I will absolutely not strike back.
Not having seen him for over a month, Xiao Nan's features were still cold and stern, except there were dark circles under his eyes now, likely from not resting well. He let out a cold snort. In the next instant, he raised his leg and kicked, landing right on Xiao Bei's right leg. Xiao Bei instantly dropped to one knee, his face turning pale from pain. I could faintly hear the soft crack of a bone. The surroundings fell silent for a moment. Xiao Nan suddenly spoke.
She is not someone I do not love.
Hiding behind the tree, I was slightly startled. A moment later, the tips of my ears began to burn. Xiao Bei understood as well. A look of surprise crossed his face.
Brother, do you mean you actually like her?
Xiao Nan, clearly, did not want to say more to him. He turned around, about to leave. Xiao Bei quickly grabbed the hem of his robe. Even though his face was pale from the pain, his expression had relaxed considerably.
If that is the case, then my running away from the wedding actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise, bringing together a perfect match.
He paused, speaking with a hint of shyness.
Since you do not blame me, brother, there is one more thing I would like to ask for your help with.
My heart suddenly tightened, vaguely guessing what he was about to say. Sure enough, Xiao Bei's voice was both shy and solemn.
On the boat to Jiangnan, I met a young lady. She is the fourth young lady of the Lin family in Jiangnan.
His cheeks grew even redder.
I fell for her at first sight, and seeing her again made her unforgettable. I came to see you this time precisely because I wanted to ask you, brother, to propose marriage to the Lin family on my behalf. As long as you are willing to help me, no matter what the condition, I will agree to it.
Xiao Bei's eyes shone brightly as he looked up at Xiao Nan with utter sincerity. Under the overlapping shadows of the trees, I could not see Xiao Nan's expression. After we married, I occasionally spoke to him about my maternal family. Among the younger generation of the Lin family, I, the second miss, am the only daughter. The fourth miss was an identity I made up. My heart suddenly began to race. Xiao Nan, how would he answer? A gentle breeze blew past. Xiao Nan looked down at the hand clutching the hem of his robe. His tone was cold.
This fourth Miss Lin you speak of, what kind of person is she?
Enduring the pain in his leg, Xiao Bei began to recount the details of the journey, from the danger on the river, when I bandaged his wounds, to our late-night chats on the deck, from my preference for wearing green, to my fondness for lotus root, even my susceptibility to the cold, my frequent coughing, and my habit of lowering my head when smiling. He spoke of them all, one by one. Every single word was deeply sincere. The affection in his eyes was almost impossible to hide.
Brother, she is different from those young ladies in the capital. She isn't just the type of cloistered lady who only knows needlework, embroidery, poetry, and painting. She is calm in the face of trouble and kind-hearted. She is the one I want to treat with absolute sincerity for the rest of my life.
He still did not understand. The one he had looked down upon and dismissed, the one he had refused to marry, the second miss of the Lin family, was precisely the girl he was now longing for and wishing to propose to, and the brother he was entrusting to propose on his behalf had already married into his own home, thinking of her every single day. Xiao Nan remained silent for a long time, before coldly spitting out two words.
I won't.
Xiao Bei was taken aback, looking up in confusion.
Brother, What do you mean by that?
Are you aware that among the younger generation of the Lin family, there are many male heirs, but there is only one? Second miss?
Xiao Nan slowly took a step forward, his gaze passing through the branches and leaves to land precisely on my hiding place. Yet he spoke to Xiao Bei, word by word.
The fourth miss you spoke of. In the Lin family, no such person exists.
The surroundings fell into a dead silence. Xiao Bei remained kneeling where he was. After a long pause, his face turned pale, utterly unable to believe it.
Impossible. Did she lie to me? But why? Does she not like me? Or does she not trust me? Right. A woman like her, traveling all alone, would naturally need to be cautious. She must have had no choice but to use a fake identity.
Xiao Bei actually ended up making excuses for me himself, assuming that because I was traveling alone and felt the need to be on guard, I had made up the identity of the Lin family's fourth miss to hide my background. Instead, he felt even more protective of me. Supporting himself on his aching right leg, he tried to stand up.
It was my lack of consideration that made her afraid to reveal her true identity. No matter who she is, my feelings for her are genuine. Brother, even if she isn't the fourth Miss Lin, she is the only one I will marry.
He was completely immersed in his own deep affection, not noticing at all that the expression of his brother beside him was growing colder and colder. Logically speaking, hearing these words from Xiao Bei, I should have felt sad and found it ridiculous. Sad that he once looked down on me and hurt me, and ridiculous that he couldn't recognize the person right in front of him, yet fell for the very woman he had run away from to avoid marrying. Strangely enough, my heart was actually very calm at this moment. It was as if, now that I knew why he left in the first place, that little bit of obsession in my heart was slowly fading away. Having stood there for so long, the chill of the forest had almost seeped into my bones. I couldn't help but let out a soft cough, which also broke the standoff. On Xiao Nan's face, there wasn't the slightest hint of surprise. He only looked up toward where I was hiding, his gaze running deep. I knew I could no longer hide. I smoothed the hem of my dress and slowly stepped out from behind the tree. Hearing the sound, Xiao Bei whipped his head around. The moment he saw me clearly, he was stunned for a moment, but then his eyes filled with pure joy, and even his voice brightened up.
Miss, what are you doing here?
Seeing me cover my mouth and cough softly, he anxiously tried to stand up at once, but he forgot about his injured right leg. Halfway through pushing himself up, he fell heavily back down. A cloak, from the side, fell upon my shoulders. It was Xiao Nan. He frowned slightly.
Your body is already weak, yet you still don't know how to take care of yourself. Careless.
His tone didn't carry much blame, but rather more of deep concern. Not far away, Xiao Bei seemed to have realized something, yet he didn't dare to dwell on it. Supporting his injured leg, he walked over to Xiao Nan, shielding me behind him. Xiao Bei's face turned pale, his tone urgent.
Brother, this is the lady I told you about. She is the one I love and the one I want to marry.
He turned back to look at me again, reassuring me softly.
My lady, don't be afraid. This is my brother. Why did you come here? Did you come looking for me?
The second half of his sentence suddenly stopped. Xiao Bei stared blankly down, his gaze falling upon my wrist as I pressed against his arm. With a gentle push of my wrist, he was nudged aside, his body swaying slightly. Just like that, step by step, I walked straight toward his brother, Xiao Nan. A warm and dry hand firmly grasped my hand, our fingers interlocking. With a slight pull from Xiao Nan, I was drawn to his side. I looked up and saw Xiao Bei not far away, clutching his knee, half kneeling on the ground, looking rather disheveled. He looked at me, his eyes dazed, forgetting even to blink. I'm sorry, I've been hiding my true identity. Indeed, I am not the fourth miss of the Lin family. I took a slow breath. I didn't decline your bracelet because of a lack of propriety, but because I was already betrothed by an arrangement made since childhood. Those last words caused Xiao Bei's eyes to flicker. His face was terribly pale as he heard me finish, my voice carrying a tone of finality. I am the second miss of the Lin family, Lin Zhao-zhao. 3 months ago, I was married to your elder brother. My previous identity was made up by me. For you to call me my lady now would be improper. From now on, you should address me as sister-in-law. After that day, I never saw Xiao Bei again. The final memory etched in my mind was of Xiao Bei suddenly collapsing from a rush of blood to his head, and the physicians rushing in. I sat by the window, my mind drifting slightly, seeing that I held a book, but hadn't turned a page in a long time. My maid advised me to go out for a walk. I realized that before long, we would be returning to the capital, so this was the perfect time to buy some everyday items I had been used to since childhood, as well as local food, to bring back to the capital. I went to the fabric shop I usually visit, picked out a few outfits, and then headed to the jewelry pavilion to choose some incense. As I walked out of the shop, I was drawn to a nearby stall. The stall owner enthusiastically showed me his goods, and I quickly made my selection. Just as I looked up and gestured for my maid to pay, out of the corner of my eye, I suddenly caught a flash of cold light. The vendor who had just been greeting me so warmly suddenly darkened his expression as a short blade appeared in his palm. With a flick of his wrist, he lunged at me with lightning speed. It happened so quickly that I barely had time to react, freezing right on the spot. Fortunately, Xiongda had been keeping close watch watch over me. In an instant, he grabbed me by the shoulder and pulled me back, causing that cold flash of light to miss its mark. The next moment, he lunged forward and began to grapple with the vendor. Once he had the man pinned down, Xiangda reported in a low voice.
My lady, this man is a remnant of the river bandits. He came to avenge his brother, who was killed.
It was unexpected, yet entirely within reason. I nodded, no longer in the mood for shopping. Just as I was about to leave, I suddenly heard a sharp, piercing horse neigh from up ahead, mingled with the gasps of the crowd.
The horse is startled. Get out of the way.
People screamed and scattered in panic, and the once orderly street market instantly fell into utter chaos. A pitch-black stallion broke free of its reins and charged straight ahead, knocking over street vendors, one after another, along the way, sending dust flying into the air. Where I was standing happened to be right in the path of the startled horse. In the blink of an eye, the runaway horse charged straight toward me. The horse's neighing grew closer and closer, and I could almost feel its hot breath on my face. My heart almost stopped beating. The next moment, a figure lunged from the side and grabbed me tightly by the shoulders. The heavy hooves grazed past the hem of my dress as they trampled down. Shielded in his arms, I stumbled back several steps, narrowly escaping with my life. Thump, thump, thump. I steadied my breathing and racing heart, looked up, and saw the person who saved me was Xiao Bei. His face was as pale as if he had just recovered from a serious illness. It seemed the sudden movement had aggravated his leg. Injury and his lips were completely devoid of color. Just now, he had shielded me firmly with his arm. Now, on his forearm, there was a dreadful bloody scrape, but he seemed completely unaware of it, only using those eyes of his to stare fixedly at me. Across the noisy street and the swirling dust, our eyes slowly met.
Look.
Xiao Bei looked at me, his voice hoarse and trembling, emphasizing every single word.
Miss Lin, at that very moment, I really was willing to risk my life for you. Would my brother dare to do that?
The doctor soon arrived in a hurry. He first checked Xiao Bei's pulse, then ordered someone to fetch medicine from the pharmacy. Then he took out some gauze, preparing to bandage Xiao Bei's arm. Since the doctor entered the room, Xiao Bei had remained silent. At this moment, he suddenly spoke up.
Aren't you going to bandage it for me?
The doctor was stunned for a moment, looking up blankly, seeming quite at a loss. I turned and left the room. I knew that question was not meant for the doctor, but for me, in the ship's cabin, to protect me. He had been injured by the river bandits. It was I who bandaged his wounds and brewed his medicine. Now, under the exact same circumstances, with the exact same injury, I only stood aside, without saying a single word. The lingering fear of almost being hit by the runaway horse, and the terror of it only now, slowly began to well up inside me. As a gentle breeze blew by, I slowly closed my eyes. You clearly used to dislike me so much, and look down on me so much, just to escape me. You did not hesitate to defy your family, and secretly flee the arranged marriage, wandering far from home. But now, you risk your safety to save me time and time again. Xiao Bei, what on earth are you thinking? On the journey back to the capital, we still took the waterway. Due to the previous incident, the bandits had been almost entirely wiped out by the local authorities. The journey was much more peaceful. I thought about it for a long time, and finally spoke in a low voice. I want to speak with Xiao Bei. Xiao Nan was standing right beside me, his body slightly angled to shield me from the river wind blowing across the deck. He remained silent for a long time before finally responding. I walked toward the cabin where Xiao Bei was staying. Xiao Nan silently followed behind me. He stood guard outside the door. I reached out and was about to push the door open, but I couldn't help but reassure him in a low voice. I'm just going to make things clear about the past. I'll come right out after we're done. Xiao Nan didn't answer. He only looked at me. Quietly, I took his hand and gently scratched his palm. His body stiffened slightly, and his tense shoulders relaxed a bit. He let me gently sway his wrist, replying in a low voice.
I understand.
As soon as I pushed the door open, the strong scent of medicine came wafting out. Xiao Bei was reclining on the daybed, lost in thought. Between his brows, there was only utter desolation. Hearing the door open, he turned his head to look. Once he saw clearly it was me, disbelief struck him first, and then his eyes lit up. I walked to the mirror, yet still kept a certain distance from him. Neither of us was the first to speak. After a long time, Xiao Bei finally broke the silence.
I thought you never wanted to see me again in this lifetime. I thought only if I had truly been trampled by the horses that day, would you be willing, before my memorial tablet, to say a word to me.
This was the first time since our reunion. This was the first time Xiao Bei had used such an unpleasant tone with me. Xiao Bei, you don't have to talk to me like this. I don't hate you.
You don't hate me. Then why did you hide your identity from the very start? Why didn't you tell me that you were my fiancé? Watching me fall for you, watching my one-sided affection, watching me walk in circles around you, was that very amusing?
He tugged at the corner of his mouth. Speaking too quickly, he agitated his injury again, making his face turn even paler. I watched him quietly, waiting for his rapid breathing to slowly steady itself. And then what? To tell you that I am the one betrothed to you since childhood. To tell you that I am the person you ran away from. And abandoned? My voice was very slow. And then let us face each other in awkwardness all the way. I did not deliberately deceive you. After learning who you were, I kept avoiding you. The gifts you sent, I accepted none of them. I dodged you at every turn, acting with utmost caution, thinking only of waiting for the ship to dock, so that after today, we would never meet again. Xiao Bei clutched the bedding tightly, his knuckles turning white, his chest heaving violently.
So in your eyes, from beginning to end, it was just me, foolishly indulging in unrequited affection. You watched coldly, watching me time and again approach you. Watching me, just to marry you, have my leg injured by my elder brother, watching me become a laughingstock in everyone's eyes?
I fell silent for a long time, really not understanding why he was so angry at this moment. If anyone was disgraced, I was the one who was the laughingstock of the capital. A few months ago, I put on my wedding dress and remarried his elder brother. I reassured my family, saying Xiao Nan was young and promising, and that even with the marriage change, I was not at a disadvantage. I also made that noble young lady who mocked me at a banquet thoroughly embarrass herself. After the wedding, Xiao Nan and I got along harmoniously. He treated me very well, so well that those rumors slowly faded away. Others all said I had turned a misfortune into a blessing and was destined for good fortune later in life. But only I knew the truth. On countless sleepless nights, looking at those letters from the past, I simply couldn't lie to myself. Xiao Bei, the Xiao Bei who had been betrothed to me since childhood, the Xiao Bei I had looked forward to marrying with all my heart. At the moment I learned he fled the wedding, I truly hated him to the core. I thought I would hate him for a lifetime and would never be able to let it go. Until, when the river bandits appeared, the moment you shielded me with your body, I no longer hated you. I looked up and met his gaze. You are a good person and a good general. In the past, you guarded the border, and now you also protect the people. It is just to me alone that you were unkind and unfair. It was my bad luck and my destined fate. I cannot bring myself to hate someone who saved my life. Xiao Bei suddenly propped himself up on the bed, trying to sit up, but his injuries had not yet healed. The moment he exerted force, fell back onto the bed again. He stared at me intently. His eyes grew red, his voice trembling with hoarseness.
What if, back then, I hadn't run away from our wedding? What if that year I had kept the agreement and married the second young lady of the Lin family? Right now, would the person standing by your side originally have been me? Would my elder brother not have had the chance to meet you at all?
But in this world, how can there be so many what ifs? I fell silent for a moment before softly giving my answer. No. If we really could start all over again, I only wish that the person who was betrothed to me at the start wasn't you. As I walked out of the cabin, the river wind blew against my face, gradually dispersing the stifling smell of medicine in the room. Xiao Nan was still standing by the door. Seeing me come out, he immediately took a step forward and reached out to smooth down my hair, which had been ruffled by the wind.
Are you done talking?
He asked me softly, his gaze falling upon my somewhat weary brow and eyes, concealing a subtle, tender concern. I nodded gently and placed my hand into his warm palm, allowing him to interlock his fingers with mine. Everything has been made clear. From now on, there won't be any further entanglement. Xiao Nan gave a low murmur of assent.
Don't take any of this to heart. You did nothing wrong.
I looked at the river, watching the undulating waves, and sighed softly. I just find it ironic. Back then, he clearly did everything he could to escape this marriage. Yet after going in a full circle, he is now doing everything he can to win me back. I really don't understand him. My wrist tightened slightly. Xiao Nan's voice was gentle as he said,
Most people are like that, eager to break free when they have it, only knowing regret after they've lost it. Unfortunately, in this world, there is no path that goes backward.
I sensed the emotion in his voice. I carefully chose my words, asking the question that had been weighing on my heart this entire time. Did you also just go along with the circumstances back then, no matter who it was? As long as it was to preserve your family's reputation and obey your elders' arrangements, would you have married them? The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted it a little. But in truth, why press for the answer to how things started? Right now, our feelings for each other are perfect. As long as things are peaceful now, that is already enough. But I still heard Xiao Nan's answer.
No, I wouldn't.
He gently tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear, but suddenly started speaking of seemingly unrelated things.
You like the scent of lotus. You like red bean cakes. You love drinking tea, but not strong tea.
I looked up in confusion, and Xiao Nan suddenly smiled. He rarely smiled, but when he did, his features softened completely.
Xiao Bei is impatient and hates reading and writing. Once, when he and I raced horses, he lost. After that, all his letters were ghost-written by me.
The realization slowly dawned on me, and my eyes widened. In Xiao Nan's eyes, the smile grew deeper. He gently touched his forehead to mine.
So, it wouldn't have been anyone else, only you. Even Xiao Bei dared to flee the wedding. Do you really think I would, just because of a single word from my elders, meekly accept such a fate?
For a moment, I didn't know how to respond. No wonder. I always felt those letters didn't sound like Xiao Bei at all. No wonder. On our wedding night, Xiao Nan gave me the jade bangle. No wonder. From the moment he saw me, he treated me so well. 1,000 different emotions flooded my heart at once. I didn't know what else to say. In the end, I turned around and threw myself tightly into Xiao Nan's arms. The night wind swept across the river, also blowing away all the past misunderstandings and melancholy. From then on, through years of river winds, the path ahead shines bright,